Kalos ήρθατε, which means hello and welcome in Greek to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a little twist on a classic Galatopita, which is a custard pie that I showed you how to make a few months ago. It's very popular because it's creamy and then the pastry is flaky and buttery and just so good. But today we're going to make it in the shape of a galette, which is a free-form tart, so you don't need any special equipment. And we're also going to top it with apricots because they're in season. It's going to be an easy and elegant dessert that you can make for a barbecue, a birthday party, a dinner party in the summertime. It takes just a few minutes of prep and you put it all together, put it in the oven, and it's ready. This is a dessert that you can make a day ahead of time because it tastes even better when it's cold. Let's get started. So we're going to start off with the custard because that's what takes the longest to prepare, and it's so simple. 2 cups of whole milk go in a little saucepan that's heating over medium heat. And then there's a half a cup of granulated sugar in the custard. Half of it, which is a 1/4 cup, is going to go in the milk, or maybe a little bit less, and the rest is going to go in a bowl that already has some finely ground semolina flour. Semolina flour is sold in your Mediterranean supermarket or specialty food store. Middle Eastern specialty food stores also have it, so you're going to want to look over there. If not, Amazon always has it, and I'll share the link down below. So we have some semolina flour and we have some granulated sugar. To that, I'm going to add 2 heaping teaspoons of cornstarch. Semolina flour is hearty and it never really melts and becomes totally smooth. It's going to have a little bit of a hardiness to it. The cornstarch makes it a little lighter, so that's why we do a little bit of both. Then we're going to need 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. I'm going to save the white to make some meringue cookies later on. We also need a tiny pinch of salt in here, and we're going to whisk this all together while the milk is heating up. We want the milk to almost come to a boil, but not a boil. We want it just to be steaming hot. And as you mix this together, it's going to start to thin out a little bit. The reason we put half of the sugar down there is because it creates a protective layer on the bottom and the milk never burns. So that's a really nice trick. Of course, you want to keep the heat over medium. So we're going to temper some of this egg mixture by adding some of the steaming hot milk and whisking together. This is going to raise the temperature. Mix it really well so everything is incorporated. Then go ahead and transfer this egg mixture back into the pot, and we're going to cook it over medium heat, medium-low heat, until it begins to boil. Once it boils, you're going to see that it's going to begin to thicken. Take it off the heat, but while it's cooking, make sure that you're constantly whisking it. You don't want to step away at this point because it'll burn. You'll have to start all over. As soon as you take it off the heat, go ahead and whisk in a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract and a 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. The combination of vanilla and almond with apricots is just delicious. Now we're going to put the tart together. So I have a pack of phyllo pastry. This is number 4 pastry, which is the traditional, most commonly used phyllo pastry sold at the supermarkets. It is sold in the freezer section, so you're going to want to bring it home. Thaw it out in your refrigerator overnight in the box, in its packaging. Then take it out in the morning right before you're about to use it and leave it on the counter for about an hour or 2 so it can come to room temperature. If you follow those steps, the phyllo is not going to tear. It's not going to get stuck. It's just going to be so easy to work with. And we're not going to use the whole box, so we're only going to need 8 sheets. I have a pan that's lined with parchment paper. I have a sheet of parchment paper in here, and the oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to layer 8 sheets of phyllo on top of each other, and in between I'm going to drizzle some melted butter, and I'm going to sprinkle just a tiny bit of sugar on top of each phyllo sheet. It's going to be phyllo, butter, and sugar until we get to the 8th sheet on the top, which is not going to be buttered or sugared. So the sheets are buttered and they have sugar in between. I'm going to set this aside because now I'm going to prepare my apricots. So you can use apricots for this. You can use peaches. Even cherries would be great in this. You can use whatever summer fruit you have on hand. And if you're making this in the fall, apples or pears would be wonderful. So I'm just going to cut the apricots in half, take out the seed, and then I'm just going to cut each half into 3 or 4 slices. And you're going to need about 5 or 6 apricots for this. So now we're going to take some of the butter that's remaining and brush the border of all of the phyllo layer pile. This is going to help form the crust in a second. So we're going to take the custard that should have thickened even more at this point and just give it a nice mix. And we're going to pour it onto the center of the phyllo. Make sure I leave a little bit in the pan for snacking. And just spread it across the center just like this. And leave a little bit of a border. Oh, the almond extract in here, even though it's a tiny bit, it smells so good. Now we're going to create 3 rows of apricot slices on top of the filling. Now at this point, if you have some sliced almonds, you could sprinkle some on top as well. I'm going to take the sides now and fold them over the edge of the filling. This is going to create a beautiful crust. Before I do the short side, let's brush some butter. That's going to help it stick. There we go. Now we're going to fold the short sides over. And you can press it down a little bit so it can stay in place. Brush some more melted butter so it can bake up and be golden and beautiful. And just like that, it's ready for the oven. This is going to bake in a preheated 350-degree oven for about 35 to 40 minutes, or until the phyllo is beautifully golden and the apricots are perfectly cooked. I'll show you what it looks like as soon as it comes out. The galette was ready in 50 minutes, but oven temperatures vary, so keep an eye on it. And once it's beautifully golden like this, then go ahead and take it out of the oven. As soon as it comes out of the oven, warm up some apricot preserves and brush them across each apricot. It's going to give them really nice sweetness, and it's also going to give them a nice glaze. Then go ahead and dust some powdered sugar all around the crust. It's going to make it sweet and also very pretty to look at. Now you can serve this slightly warm, so you're going to want to let it cool just a little bit, maybe 15-20 minutes, or you can cool it or you can chill it in the refrigerator overnight or for a few hours and serve it cold. Have it anyway. My preference is to have it a little bit cooler. Like, I like the custard to be cold, but it's up to you how you want to serve it. I suggest you make it a few times and you test it out both ways before you serve it to your guests, so that way you know how it is. That's the best part of cooking, the taste testing, if you ask me. Speaking of which, it is time to take a bite. Now you can also take this up another notch by serving this with a scoop of ice cream on top. I wouldn't do it, but you could do it. And I'm not even going to take a fork for this. I'm going to take a bite. This is so good. The phyllo is flaky and slightly sweet from the layers of sugar that are in between each layer, just a tiny bit. The apricot is slightly tart, but the sweetness of the jam on top is delicious, and that custard is so creamy and delicious, especially with that little hint of almond in there. The recipe for this is in the description box down below, as well as on the website. And if you want to learn how to make the Galatopita, which is the milk custard pie, click on this annotation right here, and I will see you right over there. Yes, Ash?